How are you folks out there? Professor Enzo Di Costanzo, clinical professor of economics and finance at St. Peter's University. It's good to see everybody out there. This is the first video for the spring 2019 term 2 introductory corporate finance online course, and we'll be using this in my live courses in the spring 2019 also. So it'll have a couple different uses. For the new folks who are in the online section, it's great to have you guys with us and on board. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this particular video introducing the course or introducing how we're going to work the course. But very briefly, I may address that. But I may send out another introductory video. But just from the emails, I'm getting a lot of emails from the online section. It seems like you guys understand, what we're doing, which is great. And there's a couple of people who took, I think Nina and Amanda took a couple classes with me, a couple live classes. I know Amanda certainly very well, and those folks know what to do and how to do everything. There's a couple chapters in the textbook you have to read. You guys were emailed those chapters. I sent you out the Excel template. Read the chapters, read through the templates, try to fill that in. But certainly, you'll see from the video, I'll explain how to enter everything you need to enter through the videos. But certainly try it yourself first. So when you watch the videos, if you have already some questions in your head, all learning begins with questions. And hopefully, at the end of the course, you have more questions than when you started with. That's usually the sign that we did a pretty good job. If everything's answered, that may not be the outcome that at least I'm generally looking for. I want you to sort of leave the course with wanting to know more than you started and knowing what you don't know, kind of a thing. Have a hard drive. I got an email this morning from somebody who had some hard drive issues already. You want to have some hard drive space on your laptops and your desktops to have a nice folder. And actually, I'm going to share my screen right now. And I'll show you guys from a hard drive perspective what we're looking for here. This is what my hard drive looks like. And actually, this is the for my accounting textbook. But here, this has the accounting textbook, some 10Ks, instructor's manual, things of that nature. But let me show you. They have courses. But yeah, I mean, this is just my, I'll make it big. This is my folder for my spring semester generally. And I have the grade sheet in here and some files from people, the textbook files, the assignments, some of the PowerPoints are in here. Some of the video files are in here, all just you should organize what you're doing in a similar manner. And like I said, don't just work off the emails type of a thing. I worked with a guy who did that, and when his email somehow crashed, 3 years of work sort of went out the window. You always be backed up. So that's always very important. All right, folks, let's start hitting the chapter here. I'm going to have my Excel file, my initial file that I'm using going. And what I did was I sent you guys this Excel file. So you should get on Blackboard. Now we have a syllabus, all that, but the textbook files are up there. You click on syllabus and actually just very, very quickly, we're just going to run to the Blackboard site. And again, for the online folks, just what you guys are used to looking at very quickly. We're the 401 section, 19. Let's say, yeah, right there, I think. I didn't post any announcements yet, but yeah. So here we go. So you have announcements, which we have nothing at the moment because the course didn't even really start yet. It's March 6th, and I'm way ahead. Some of you, I'm emailing some of you in January just to sort of get going. But I'm always very early. The Italians are very early about things. There's nothing in week by week or anything like that. But you click on syllabus and schedule. You have the syllabus in here. Like I said, legally we have to put a syllabus up there, but it's 2 chapters in the course: the completing accounting cycle chapter and the net present value chapter. Accounting is from the accounting book, and the finance one, the net present value is from the finance textbook. And I posted the textbooks here. Feel free to use those. What I didn't post, I usually post an economics book and a statistics book. We're not really going to use those, but I'll post those before the course is over. So if you want to download them, you'll have 4 pretty good textbooks to go out there and be Donald Trump yourself, pretty much. So if you want, but there's a finance textbook here. There's an accounting textbook here. the syllabus is here as when the course index number, my contact information. We legally need to put that out, but like I said, just concentrate on reading 2 chapters. There'll be 4 assignments per chapter. Complete those in Excel. That's the course. I mean, there's your syllabus. Okay, so it's not too complicated. PowerPoints, if you want to read the PowerPoints are just what's in the textbook. And again, I put the PowerPoints up there just because we're so used to doing a live course. But now this is, I forget how many online courses I've done, but a lot. And that's all this stuff is in the textbook. You can just download this stuff as you want, type of thing. So go back to syllabus and schedule, Excel files. Now, this is the class notes, which I'll be working on today. There'll be another file in here for homework, like a template, where here's a specific homework question and problem, and and you have to fill the template in and send it back to me with your name and all that other type of thing. I'll be putting that'll be another file down here soon when the course officially starts. The video files, they'll just be listed here. Obviously, I'll put this one up here when I'm done with it, type of thing. We'll do that. And similarly with the assignments, they'll just be a list of assignments. So the 8 assignments will be in here. And again, we'll get to those as we're getting through the chapters. We'll get to those, okay? Well, like I said, that's the whole course. Is very organized. And email me as much as you need. Contact me as much as you need. And folks, I should always be the person. Any questions and concerns always come to me, because what's in the past, not recently, but sometimes in the past, people are running to other folks. And I actually got a call once from the registrar. I was a little shocked by that. And some student was upset about something. I just at the time, sitting right now, I forget what it was, but there was some issue, and the person should have just brought it to me. And certainly not doing something like that is awkward, to say the least. And even to this day, I'm sort of, it's made it awkward with that person a bit. So, like I said, you never want to cause those kinds of things at work, because there's some people. I own a college has a physics professor who's been there since 1966, and what is it, 2019? So you do the math. What is that, 50-something years or something like that? So people can stay at some of these jobs, maybe not to that extremeness, but you work in places sometimes and people aren't so apt to leave, and if there's a little problem, sometimes you never know what can happen. So anyway, but like I said, so you read through these, and that should, all your documents should be there. Download the textbook, all that. Okay. Okay, so let's start the content. Okay, net present value and other investment criteria. Calculate the net present value, and actually, I've done enough videos where I know I need to make it 140 to sort of look reasonable up there. Calculate the net present value of a project. Calculate the internal rate of return of a project. Know what to look out for when using internal rate of return rule. Calculate the profitability index and use to choose between projects when funds are limited. Understand the payback rule, and use the net present value rule to analyze 3 common problems that involve competing projects: when to postpone an investment expenditure, choose between the projects that unequalize, and when to replace equipment. Folks, even though this is very mathematical, and I almost treat this like it's accounting, but this is all philosophy. Jeff Bezos, the guy who runs Amazon, and all those types of people, and certainly Amazon in America, they've got merchandise and warehouses, and I always have a couple students here and there every semester who work at the one in Elizabeth. There's an Amazon in Elizabeth warehouse out there. I've gotten varying feedback on how good it is to work there one way or another. I'm sure it's not the California or the Seattle experience. That's for sure. But those guys are thinking, where to put the warehouse, and believe me, they're sitting down doing some math, and where all the customers are and what people are buying, and all that type of stuff. So we're giving you the beginnings of that type of reasoning and rationale. And I like to put a number with something, and you'll get varying. And folks, let me tell you, college, it's supposed to be theoretically a free and clear conversation of ideas and exchange of ideas. And look, people always get married to I think this, I think that kind of a thing. People are always getting married to that stuff. But you'll get varying professors across St. Peter's, or if you go to Rutgers or whatever down the road, certainly NJIT, varying ideas and varying styles and varying values and varying what's important to them, that type of thing. And with me, I'm always after a number and being rational and reasonable and organized. I'm always about those kinds of things. So certainly, and that'll come through in the course. Okay, so when we, and I worked for a firm, and a couple of you know this already. I worked for a firm a number of years ago that taught financial analysis in Excel and everything we did in Excel, statistics in Excel. And I don't mean using a statistics program. I mean computing the statistics using Excel. And you'll see what I'm talking about. There are NPV functions, and we'll use some of those too. But I'm teaching you how to do the math. I was a math professor at Rutgers for about 10 years. And again, the people who've taken me know the story already. Then I transitioned into economics and finance and accounting, and I was happy to do so. And I just carried my engineering characteristics and my science characteristics with me throughout everything that I do. And I just apply it to finance and accounting these days. It is really what I do, and economics, of course, and statistics. So just be prepared for a very engineering type course, but I'll show you how to do everything, and you guys should be comfortable with that. Like I said, read the textbooks, and now, like I said, you're going to see from the video today, we're going to all these gray cells. My intention today is this first column of notes that goes about 500 lines down, and we'll see how long that takes. It's about 7 o'clock in the morning. I started this, so I'm always best. 4 or 5 in the morning is when I thrive, it seems. So we'll knock these videos out, and actually this week I'll try to get all of these done and try to get the accounting ones up next week, and then you'll have all the videos. Then we'll start knocking out some problems. Folks, I've taught many classes at Rutgers and certainly at St. Peter's, easily over 100 college classes at this point. Knocking on the door of probably 150 pretty soon. I've done this a lot, and I know how to do it, and we've hit this many times. You got to work the problems out. So I sort of know what I sort of know what you need to do to sort of succeed at this stuff. So like I said, so read the chapters, go over these things line by line. That's the most important thing that we can do. But like I said, I've got a lot of experience with this. I sort of know what it's supposed to look like, and everything that we're going to do in here is very transferable to a job in finance or accounting. I'm not big on packaged programs. I am big on you sitting there and doing the math, and I'll show you how to do that. So don't be concerned. Oh, I don't know my math. I don't know this. I don't know that. Slope and all these other things. We'll go over everything that we need to go over. I always teach my courses where it's always self-contained. Sure, is it better if you had an economics course? Is it better if you had course X, Y, and Z before you met me? Sure, that's always to your advantage to know more. But I'm not going to sit there and say, oh well, some guy somewhere should have taught you this, and and now there's a problem if you don't have that, and complaining about it. That I'm not that. There's people like that, but I'm not certainly not that way. I try to keep everything self-contained, and I'm responsible for teaching you everything you need to know. And we always take it as that. But of course, the more accounting that the more exposure you have to finance and economics and statistics, the better. So, all right, folks, let's hit this. So we looked at the objectives, before we started today. So we have this. Now these are lectures. Usually, I think almost 100% of these videos we're solving a homework problem or preparing people for final exams. But now we're really making lectures with these videos, and I'm happy about that. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So the opportunity cost of capital. So there's a bunch of definitions here. At one time, like I said, Nina and Amanda might remember this. We had assignments where you had to work out a bunch of definitions. I'm not requiring you to do that in the online course or even in the live courses any longer for a variety of reasons. But but you should read through these definitions. What opportunity if Warren Buffett, if you hear any videos about Warren Buffett's one of the wealthiest guys in America. Bezos is, I'm sure somebody from Apple is also. But Warren Buffett would talk about the opportunity cost of capital, meaning what else you could do with your money. And in America, in the West, we always think about what could we do with our money as opposed to investing in the stock market or investing in real estate. The thing you give up is your opportunity. So if you somehow knew that the real estate in Jersey City was going to be up 20, which it almost was. It was up about 20%, year over year last year, and you went in the stock market and lost 11% in the S&P 500. Obviously, that's about a 30-point swing in what you could have earned, and it's those types of thinking. So, you not investing in the Jersey City real estate market is your opportunity cost is 20% because you lost that opportunity. And compounding not and just losing that opportunity. Actually, if you invest in the S&P 500 list in 2018, you actually lost about 10% in the calendar year. If you measure from January 1st to December 3rd, now if you do December to December, it's about down 6%. So you could play games with that, but you know, it was down a lot last year. But usually it's usually December over December, not January 1st and December, which probably exacerbated the move a little bit in that index value. Net present value. Actually, this was a final exam topic, I think, last summer. We had an MTA project where I asked the students to determine what were the present values of all the costs involved. It was like a 15-year project. It was like a $40 billion project or something like that. And I remember there were pictures of the mayor of New York City and the governor of the state of New York, and you know, new subway cars, new subway line, I think, on the east side. You know, remodeling some of the stations. And folks, you have to realize New York City is a very, very old place, and those subways were easily built 100 years ago. And I will bet you everything you have that there is infrastructure that's dates back to when it started, you know, type of a thing. You know, there's stuff there's pipes and conduits, and there's probably, you know, infrastructure that's been around a long time. And the salt, and New York City is not, you know, Manhattan is an island, but certainly Queens and Brooklyn are surrounded by water too. Okay, it's just a big island. You know, it's connected to Long Island. People say, oh, New York City, sure. Staten Island is an island. The Bronx is the most landlocked of them all. But still, there's also bridges, and it touches water and things of that nature. So all of that impacts. Anytime you're around any kind of water, anybody who has experience going down the shore in New Jersey in the summers, you know, the salt water. I remember as a kid, we would come back as a family, and some of our stuff that we would bring with us would rust from the salt air being exposed, you know, the chairs and different things and different pieces on there. And I was always shocked by that. But salt is corrosive, water is corrosive, and it's an acid. There's an acid content. If you want to dissolve anything, just leave it in water long enough, and it'll dissolve. I'll always remember the story as a kid. I had one of those cinnamon, very, very hot, spicy cinnamon candies. It was like that. It was called the Atomic Cinnamon Ball or something like that. And I said to myself, and I remember this so clearly. I took a glass of water. I said, I'm going to dilute the cinnamon on this, and I dropped it in the water. And the next morning, it was just red water, which the whole thing, because it was just sugar, because the whole thing had dissolved, type of thing. So, you know, that's what water will do. Anyway, internal rate of return. The discount rate, which the project has a net present value of 0, which means you're anticipating a certain return. If you hit the nail on the head, if you said, I'm going to make 10%, your NPV is going to be 0 because you anticipate a 10% return, and that's what you're getting. When NPV is bigger than 0, that means you're exceeding your expectations. That gives you a dollar value difference between your return that you expected and the return you're actually going to get based on the cash flows. The cash flows are fixed, or should be fixed. What you're paying into a project and what you're getting in terms of cash flows, either in terms of benefits or in terms of, you know, direct cash in, or however you want to measure that. But that's what that means. Now, if NPV is negative, that doesn't mean you're not adding to your wealth. What that means is your return is either, now these are not accounting measures; these are finance measures. That means that your return on the project is below what you expected. It doesn't mean that it's a negative return on the project. It means it's a negative return based on what you expected. So if you lower your expectations, you may be able to get the NPV back to 0. Now, if you can't do that, then certainly, you know, if your NPV, let's say your discount rate is 8% and you're negative, and you bring it to 5 and you're still negative, you know, that's a real risky, questionable project you should undertake. And people will do that, you know, in companies and things of that nature. They will undertake projects and building different things and engaging in certain projects that, you know, aren't that profitable, don't add to the wealth of the shareholder of the company, and you know, that kind of a thing. And you know, those certainly things you should not be pursued, because the money can work better elsewhere. And Warren Buffett will say that very often. So, you know, a lot of things that we're going to talk about in here, you know, really lend itself to some good economic thinking. But like I said, we want to put the math with it. Profitability index is a ratio of net present value to initial investment. And like I said, we're not doing accounting here. Okay, so there's the accounting thinking, there's the finance thinking. The finance thinking is far more scientific than the accounting stuff. Is very plug and play, and you need it. You have to. How can you understand what the balance sheet is? You have to, and all the entries. If you look at an accounting, after you get through the first couple introductory chapters, and after you get past the budgeting chapter and all that, the whole accounting book is basically explaining the balance sheet. It just explains each entry pretty much. So just keep that in mind. What capital rationing is, limited amount of funds. So yeah, so you have a couple choices. So you may not be able to remodel every single subway station. So maybe in New York City, maybe you spend the time remodeling just the ones that are used the most. And again, I don't know how used to traveling around New York City. A lot of you are, but Queens is very alive. That's for sure. I'll tell you, if there's one of the 5 boroughs outside of Manhattan that's got the most life to it, I would really say Queens is up and coming. And if you go to the furthest western reaches, it's as alive as anything. And I had a girlfriend at one time where she lived in Upper Manhattan, and I remember hanging out with her and having dinner with her, and then coming back to New Jersey, and I was surprised. This was about 10 years ago, that after a certain time, some of the subway stations didn't have ridership in the upper parts of Manhattan. Like after 10 or 11 o'clock, you couldn't. I forget what number subway it was, but whatever it was to get up to the top of Manhattan. Some of them stopped running after 11 o'clock at night. So for if it's safety reasons or whatever the reasons were, just not enough people riding those things. The upper part of Manhattan is very residential. We all think of Manhattan as Broadway and Midtown and the financial district. That's in the middle and the lower piece of it, and even the lower part of Manhattan is becoming very residential. There's a lot of people living on Manhattan Island now. Sure, the middle of New York, and even in the middle, there's people living there too. But people obviously very, very wealthy people living in the middle, like Sutton Place and those places. Very wealthy people living there. So, but yeah, so like I said, so in terms of rationing, just there's only so many tax dollars. Yeah, how do you fund a capital project like that? Taxes and bank accounts and loans, and the city is a business entity just like any other kind of business. And believe me, there's no such thing as not being profitable or not meeting your breaking even is probably the better word. There's no such thing. There's a whole infrastructure in place to manage budgets and what's being spent in capital expenditures, and they've got to show that what they're doing is worthwhile as much as any business would, and maybe even more so because they're on the hook to the taxpayer. And if you're Trump or a guy who just got here who's working in a kitchen someplace, you want to know where your tax dollars are going. You want good subway service. You don't be trapped in subway trains. And I've never had that experience of being sort of trapped for hours. But every so often you hear that story, especially in the summers, people getting trapped in these trains. And imagine if that happened at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday, and you're trapped in a subway with all these people really nowhere to go. It's I'm sure it'd be quite a harrowing experience. And I'll tell you, folks, the subway systems, take that number 7 train in Queens at 5 o'clock, on a Wednesday or a Thursday or something like that. And it's full of people. There's a lot of people that take these trains. And, New York, everybody wants to come to New York City, and that's well founded to do that. And so, but yeah, so, figuring out which projects you want to work on, that's certainly an important thing. The payback period, the equivalent annual annuity, these are all, like I said, the payback period is how many years, if the project's going to yield a couple $100,000 a year and you're spending $500,000 on something, when do you get that money back, that type of a thing. I'm going to always be grateful to the woman who does my personal taxes. And I do this every time I write her a check, I always do the math in my head. She recommended a drug program for my mom, a federal program that turned our monthly bills from about $500 a month to $50 a month or $10 a month or something like that. And we pay her about I'd say maybe $250 to compute our taxes every year. So she's paid for herself in half a month. That kind of doing that kind of math every year. She's paid every month. She's in a half a month, 2 weeks of savings. Folks, that's money that we're spending on something else. We're paying the cable bill or whatever. It may be paying the telecommunications bill or Verizon bill or something. So that's money. Okay, it's like me getting a raise kind of a thing. So that's payback periods, and then equivalent annual annuity, the cash flow per period with the same present value as the cost of buying and operating a machine. And I was just talking to the guy working on my house, and he did the roof for us and did a bunch of other projects for us. And I told him, I said, I prefer, and he's agreed with me, and he's been very reasonable about, us paying him and us setting up a cash flow for him, but very even. So it's not, $5,000 this month and then nothing the next month. it's a very even flow of numbers, and we have a couple months to pay him, and we're happy to, and he's happy with it, and we're happy with it, and that's a deal. That's a business deal, and he's forever on the phone saying to some guy who needs a bathroom done by Friday, saying, you got to give me some money first, and he's forever on the telephone having those conversations. So capital investment projects, especially in the hope of generating cash. So yeah, look, if you have better subway stations, people are going to ride the systems more. Now, the stations aren't air conditioned, but the cars are air conditioned. I don't think you could efficiently air condition a station because it's so open to the elements. How many doors you have to have on the stairs? Because if you ever notice that there's no doors on the subway system when you go up and down the steps, right, from the street level. I'm saying there could be here and there, like the PATH train or something, there could be a door from the street level, but that's if it's attached to a business or a mall or something. But generally the subway, however many subway stations there are, I think it's like 400 subway stations or 4,000, I forget what the number was. Actually, that's after every time I do one of these, I'm going to say I always ask that question, I always care about getting the answer. Okay, yeah, it's 400. Okay, it's large. Yeah, there are 400. Okay, I was surprised. I was surprised it was that seems small, to be very honest. It doesn't seem very. I remember we worked on that. Like I said, in this last summer we worked on that. I knew it was about 400 something. That seems little because I know the number one line has like 25 stations or something. The 7 has a bunch of stations, has a good 30 stations or so. But yeah, there's not that many lines really. There's only about a dozen subway lines or so, or something like that. So and like the S is just end to end, east side to west side, that kind of a thing. So there's not that many. But folks, I'm not telling you stories about subways in New York City just for no reason. You want to understand what you're doing. You want to have some closeness with the projects, and you got to be identified with it. So that's just something to keep in mind. What a capital investment project is, and again, anybody who's done any kind of stock analysis or any bond ratings, how companies are spending money to grow their business is a huge characteristic that you want to study to determine if you should invest in IBM or not, or invest in Apple or not, or invest in Amazon or not, how much they're growing. And you're always hearing about how many stores Walmart opened in Mexico and how many stores closed in New Jersey, and all these other types of statistics. Those are all things that you want to really keep track of. So that's a big piece of it, and certainly from an accounting perspective, that you're able to find those numbers in the financial statements or in the SEC filings, which are very detailed and complicated documents. And the more of a legal education that you have, and certainly the more of a financial education you have, the better in terms of reading those and understanding those. Certainly accounting knowledge, reading SEC documents. The government demands, and it's the only act of the Securities Act of 1933, which I've read end to end. I'm very happy to admit that. I read all 70 pages. The SEC Act of 34 is about 350. I have not read that one yet, but I read the Act of 33, which is the precursor to that, which basically demands that companies disclose their financial status, what they're doing, their address, that they exist as a company. It's all the pre-Bernie Madoff stuff. And look at the year on that legislation. That's 1933, and Bernie Madoff's thing was whatever, 209 or whatever it was. Almost 100 years later, mankind is still trying to take advantage of the investor, trying to take advantage of people who don't really know what's going on, and you'll find this in business, especially in New York, very often. Oh, you don't understand this. It's too complicated for you, kind of a thing. You'll see a lot of that, and that's anytime someone comes to you with a statement like that, that's a major red flag. You'll be very careful with people who say, "Well, you're not going to understand this," type of thing, or it would take too long to explain it. That's a big problem. That's because if you can't explain it in a couple seconds, that's not that good. Net present value, what the definition of that is, and then again, as you go through, a lot of these are just sort of repeats here, and these are just sort of from the introductory chapter. You guys can read the chapter, and actually, what you should do in the text of the PDF is again, I read it in here, and I had a very spirited discussion with one of my students who'd taken a number of classes with me. She was saying to me, "Well, it's page 234. Yeah, this file, this number and this number match, and then there's something else here. This 26 of 801. See, these things used to work, where the PDF reader used to work, where you would see the 269 up here, and that's it. It would just count the number of physical pages, including the cover, including the inside cover, including the title page, including the the Library of Congress thing. It would include all those things as 1, 2, 3, and then when it finally 20 pages in started counting numbers or however many pages to do that, then you would figure out where you were in the book. But now the PDF 234 and the actual physical 234 all match. All right, so if you put in 1. Yeah, see, it's weird. You put in 1, you get back the front page again. So these things, it's been tuned where, it's been tuned where it lines up with the pages better. I remember the training firm they used to work for that taught Excel to the investment banking community for years and years. I remember the guy would always say to me, and this is about a decade ago, that the PDF, you had to watch when you explained the PDF files to people because the page up top didn't match the physical page number. And we still have books. I still have all these books as a physical book sitting with me. So certainly we have all that. But like I said, you should be reading 234, and how far does it go? So just concentrate on this chapter for this course, 234 to 269, I suppose. So 34 to 70, whatever that is, 40 pages or so, however many pages that is. Yeah, but those 40 pages or so are what you want to read. And again, there's a bunch of questions in here. Don't worry about the mini case or anything like that. And we'll get to some challenge problems. There's a 30-something questions. We'll pick up 4 of them, and across the board, and we'll get you some experience with this material. The first 10 or so are all, the first 8 are all based on the comparing these 2 projects. So certainly you want to spend a little bit of time on that. And like I said, I'm going on and on here, but today the first piece of this is just for section 1 or 8.1, the net present value, and we're getting to that. So so we have all the definitions here, what the payback rule is, all that type of thing. Okay, well we're ready to hit this now. I hope I'm not causing too much confusion. I'm going to be working here on the left. These are, because I've taught this course in the past, but I always like to have sort of my answers sort of just lingering here so I can use them and make sure I'm saying what I need to say to you guys. So it's be saying the right things here as we go. And I always make this a little smaller. Okay, so it just sort of blends in a little bit there. So I have maybe 60% of the screen, what we're doing with you guys, and I have sort of my answers here as we're going along. But the real estate business, it's considering construction of an office block, and we've discussed this in class extensively. And I was mentioning this before. In the West, we talk about credit and electronic money, so to speak, and very few people in the West really use cash any longer. Talk to someone from the Middle East or talk to someone from Latin America. It's all about cash, sort of cash in the shoebox, so to speak. So, let's say there's a project and you can buy the land. Let's say, that's not going to be Hudson County. But let's say, whatever, Essex County somewhere, Belleville, right? $50,000. You could buy a lot in Belleville, New Jersey. And you get your construction guy, right? And he shows up, he'll build you a house, 300,000, he'll get his guys, they'll do it in 3 months. Roof, everything, I don't know how, that's about, I'd say it's about accurate. Building house, a normal standard crew where you don't have too many people, 5 guys or so. A roof could take 5 or 6 people. Never mind everything else. But again, you put more guys on it, you get it done quicker. So, but the construction expense is 300,000. So the total investment that you're looking at here is obviously 350. And if you notice, I'm getting rid of the shading as we're going along. Folks, when you type in a number, 50,000, 300,000, notice the font is blue, and I'll hit Control-1. And you have a bunch of choices here for formatting: general, number, currency, accounting, date, all the custom, special text, all scientific notation. And I have experience. I'm saying at this point, I'm happy to say I've had experience using every single one of these for one reason or another. How many decimal places and symbols. If you go to currency, it'll give you every currency that's in the world, all 250 of them or whatever the number is. Everything from the United Arab Emirates dollar to the Chinese currency to the Russian to the South American ones, on and on and on. All of those. So, we're using accounting, Okay, one decimal place and a dollar sign. Or not. So it says none. You could have not use the dollar sign. Also, you get this. See what says format cells. I hit Control 1, but you can just come up here which says font, and you'll get the same box. There's alignment. There's font. There's border. There's fill. There's protecting it. All of these things in here in Excel will help you. Alignment, if you want to make it centered or merge the cells. Again, you'll get to, as you get more experience with this, you'll get to use all these. The font, how number-wise, color, underlining, strike through, subscript, superscript, exponents, subscripts. If you want to put some borders around it, all those things. Okay, there's a fill. Actually, obviously, fill no colors is what I'm doing. But clicking with the mouse and all these things can be a very sort of tedious thing. So you have to figure out what the shortcuts are. And what you want to do is you want to go online and you want to just type in Excel keyboard shortcuts. And I'll hit Alt, H, and then N. It's fine. Just notice the N on my keyboard is worn off. I guess I used my N a lot. And it'll go to note, it'll have a clear font, or you can just come up here and just click on it. Fill color, no fill, that type of thing. Okay, so I use the keyboard shortcuts. But see, if you hit Alt, notice what happens up here. You're going to have all of the home and everything's got a letter to it. You hit that letter, and it gives you access. And then you hit the letter again, H again, and then H, N one more time for no fill. So again, as you do these, same thing with the border. If you want to make borders and things of that nature, And then there's other things like Control U for underline and the font colors. But again, you'll get used to all the keyboard shortcuts as you go. So anyway, so like I said, I can the Italians, we could talk a lot, right? Just ask Nina. We talk a bunch here, and I mean that in a good way, of course. But you have a project. There's an expense to build, so your total investment in this, you're going to say equals sum, right? Parenthesis. You type that in, equals SUM parenthesis, shift up arrow. And actually, what you want to do is you want to go up to the 50, just actually up arrow. Shift will include yourself. So just arrow up and then say shift down arrow, and then hit shift 0. And look at what it does for you. It says equals sum N12 colon N13. Microsoft, the Excel column N, the row, I sort of cut it off a little bit, but you can see it's 13, right? Right there is, if you go across, that's, whatever it is, 12, 13, right? That's all in there type of thing. So you have the rows and the columns, and you're adding those two up. And obviously, the answer should be 350. And it is. Alt HHN, right? It gets rid of the fill right there. Right? So that's your initial project. And again, you always want to understand this stuff as much as you can. In a very basic way. Okay, you always want to understand these, what it is. You're not just throwing the numbers around the page. You have no idea, what's really going on. That's important. Because very important. Now, again, if you look at the Jersey City real estate market or the Essex County real estate market, which is where I'm broadcasting from today, land 50,000, construction 300,000. So the initial investment or the total investment 350. You're thinking that you can sell this in a year for 400,000. Again, I type that in, and you can see it's the right font and blue and all the right formatting. Alt HHN, and it gets rid of the shading. And again, I do that so often. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control S. I'm going to save the work as we go. If you go to File, Save right there. You always want to save this stuff as you go. I'll post these at some point. The sort of the finished version. But you'll want to be able, using the videos, you want to put the videos on, put Excel on, and you want to try all this as we go along, and really, and not get bored or tired or anything like that, and really just, work your way through it the whole way. And investors willing to invest 350, T0 is today, and the expectation of realizing 400,000 at the end of a year. So that's T equals 1. And again, being in a very short amount of time here, in 10 lines or 20 lines, you've gotten very mathematical very quickly. Now, let's cash flow. Now, in accounting, you put a negative, right, equals negative 350, right? That's your initial investment. And you're getting equals 400,000 right there. It's sort of bad form to have a dollar sign on every line, but just for the initial moment here, we'll just leave those like that. So you invest 350. Now, again, you talk to a guy from South America, says, okay, well, I came with 350 cash and I got 400,000 cash, and that's what I made, type of a thing. From this transaction. So it says actually if the present value of the payoff is 400. Now, there's we say theoretically, do you know you're going to get that? Well, I have luck. There's nothing certain about anything. Okay, and it's just ridiculous to think that you're going to be certain about anything sort of out there. But most likely you could get that number. Most likely you could spend. Well, the 350 that you can probably be pretty certain of, and maybe probably a little bit more. But how is real estate going to do in a year type of thing? Well, you got to figure that out as you go along, and hope that you make these investments. And you hope that you're going to get that after making that kind of an investment. So it says actually the transaction and the whole little. And what I like about the Excel is there's all little discussion pieces as we go through this. Now, again, I don't know how stock market friendly you guys are, or financial instrument friendly you guys are, or anything like that. But there's something called the treasury market out there. Know anyone with lots of money? Know anyone with lots of money? And the Bloombergs, those will be the most risk-averse people you will ever meet, because when you have a lot of capital, when you have a lot of cash, you're not rolling the dice in stock markets and all these other kinds of things. These are people who want to loan their money to the government or loan their money to some company like a Johnson & Johnson. Be happy that they're beating inflation by a few percentage points, and they're good. And you'll see that. It's called capital preservation, wealth preservation. Now, if you want to go out there in the world and roll the dice, it's a casino. The stock market's a casino. It just is. There's no such, this whole indexing thing, sure, you can leave your money here, leave your money there, but it needs some kind of tweaking. It needs some kind of management, a little bit. Generally, you'll be okay, but, you want to be in things where, you're able to get in and out, be liquid. But if you look at the S&P 500 and how it behaved over the years, if if you look at the last 50 years or so, we did this in class and in a different course. There were a few years where it's down 20% or down 4 or 5 times. It was down 15 or 20% for the year, and there was a few times, there was a couple years in a row, it was down those kinds of numbers. What then? What if you're retiring at that time, or that's when you need the cash to pay bills and things of that nature? It can get ugly, and I've seen it. And it's not pretty when that happens. So anyway, but in the treasury markets, you can get, let's say again, these are the guys in the book, and this book was written a few years ago, so it was written when interest rates were a little bit higher. So there could have been treasuries out there that were yielding 7% or those kinds of numbers. Okay, that there could have been numbers that could have happened out there. Okay, so we know, getting a $400,000 payoff is coming in a year. That we know. Now, if we can just take our money and invest at 7% and just get $400,000, shouldn't we do that instead of rolling the dice on real estate or rolling the dice on a stock market or a stock or whatever, or some biotech thing? Folks, if you invest in Home Depot, you've doubled your money in the last 5 years, and those kinds of stocks. So it doesn't take a lot to do well in the stock market, just a little bit of thinking, but not much. So if you had some other option, you went to Morgan Stanley, you said, hey, here's whatever, 350 or some kind of number that we're going to compute right now, and you're going to get your 400,000. What number would have to come in with to get 400,000? Now, if you just look here, your plus here, and I'll do it like this. Your plus, meaning your profit is 50,000. You have to have 350 to get the 400. Okay, you always hear the expression, it takes money to make money kind of a thing. This is a perfect example of that. Your profit there is $50,000. Now, the return on that, and we'll do it in a percentage form here, equals this divided by, I'll do negatives with that. Yeah, you're looking at about 14% return on that money. Okay, which if you make 50,000 on 350 is a 14%, and we just did the math there. That's your profit margin from the accounting world. But in finance, there's the discount rate and opportunity cost, and the economists say it like that. If you could invest in treasuries, what would you need to just make 7%? You know, to get 400,000 in a year. Well, let's do the math. It would say equals. Now, we're going to go through the math, and I suspect that a lot of you probably are not comfortable with what I'm going to do right now, but let's do the math. We're going to get 400 in a year. We're going to say divide 1 plus 7%, and that's going to work for a year. So look at how I did that. Okay, equals n, the 400,000 is n37. You know, column n, row 37. 1 divided by 1 plus 7% to the first power, which is what that is. Okay. And we hit control return. It tells us, and actually it's negative because you have to, you know, we have to put that in. So minus 373, 831,000, you know, 373, $832,000. We'll say 375, just so it rolls off the tongue a bit. So if I want to earn 7%, I need 375,000. And you look up top at our previous example with the real estate problem. You come with 350, you're going to get 400,000 a year. You're earning 14%, and we just did the math on that. You're making 50,000 on that divided by the 350. That's 14%. So 375, and then making 4 is half. Now don't always say, oh, 25% is 25,000, 7%. It's just, this is just how these numbers work. Yeah. So don't equate that too much. You have to work through your specific problem. Okay, but that's what you need to make 7%. That's what you need to come with. So if you're coming at 350, you know, if you could make 400,000 from 375, if you're coming at 350, you're still going to be making more, right? Because you're coming with less money, right? Because you're coming with 25,000 less, and you're still getting to 400,000, so that means you're going to make another 25. So that's your profit for the real estate project. But if you just invest in the treasuries, you have to come with more money, and your profit margin will be a little bit less. And if you do the math, if you figure out what the profit margin here is, you know, whatever the 50, you know, whatever was 50,000 here, 400, minus this is whatever, 26 or 27 or 26 and a little bit, 26 and 150 or something. Yeah, 26,150 divided by the 375 will give you about 7%. Okay, if you do the math, you'll get that. As soon as the investors purchased the land and laid out the money for the construction, the party decides to cash in on the project. How much could the investors sell it for? If it's worth 400,000 a year. Now, things are trends, and nobody has perfect. I mean, look. Forget about just the United States, but even the world. When you buy a house, you know, when my parents, they looked at 3 or 4 houses, they bought a house. That's what they did. Perfect, theoretically perfect information is you study every house in detail that you could potentially buy at a certain point in time that's available on the market in America, in the world. Then you decide on the one you're going to buy. You know, how many people really do that? It's like going to college. Did you really look into every single college in America or the world before you decide on coming to St. Peter's or coming to Rutgers or something? Right? You didn't. You may have looked at 10 college or so or less, maybe. Same thing with houses. With people, there's been studies where people sort of study or examine the same number more or less. And you know, to sit there and say, hey, you know, we know we're going to get this, we know we're going to get that. Real estate prices are trends, and if Bergen County or Queens County or whatever it is, if there's a certain market, it tends to hold itself unless there's some big bad news out in the world that we got into a war, or there was the president was going to get impeached, or there was some big political problem, or some big military problem in the world that would shake confidence, because so many things are about confidence, and that we believe in tomorrow, we believe that our bank is going to be there, that kind of a thing. If I didn't think that Chase Manhattan Bank would be there tomorrow, I'd be pulling all my money out, kind of a thing. No bank could withstand. Every customer wanted to cash out their accounts. No bank could withstand that. Since it probably be worth for it in a year, investors will only pay the most $373,832 for now, and would get precisely the same payoff by investing in government securities. Yeah. Okay. So like I said, we're trying to gauge here. We're trying to put in United States dollars to get a specific return. What do you have? Now, the math in this is not that, I don't think is that complicated. But the ideas are very, very deep ideas. At a rate of 7%, the present value is in the office bill is worth $373,832 today. Fine. Is an assessor with the buyer, the seller. And yeah, that's another thing too. Going back to your basic economics, supply and demand, and the supply and demand curves. That point of intersection on the supply and demand curve is, what the buyer agrees the price should be, what the seller agrees the price should be. When you're both in agreement, you have a transaction. Okay? That's how that works. And here, what do we do here? Yeah, here we determine this is basically the NPV. So how far away are we from what we're paying, and what our rate should be, type of a thing. If we think we should be making 14% or something, or it's actually 7%, we think we should be making, and really making 14, but how far are we in dollars? Because I can't pay a mortgage bill with a percentage. I can pay a mortgage bill with the US dollar. So to count that present value, we discount the expected future payoff by the rate of return off by the comparable investment. Fine. We did that. Opportunity cost. And it explains it right here. You're foregoing similar investment opportunities with similar risks and things of that nature. Now, here's the big drum roll with this. It says the development is worth more than it costs. Well, again, if you want a 7% return and you need to come with 373, but you can come up with 350 and still get the 400,000, you're ahead by a certain number. And what is that number? Let's work that number out right now. It would be the negative of this. And at the end of the day, you could just say plus this guy. And there's your 23,831. But like I said, you're really subtracting them. But, if these numbers were both the positives of these, we could have subtracted them. I could do it like that too. I took the negative of that minus parenthesis the negative of this guy, right? That'll come up to the same number. All right, see, we're just making up. I put negatives in there to get rid of it, to counteract the accounting negatives. So, if all you expect is 7%, so you're really 23,832 ahead, because you're only coming in 350, but you need 373 to get your 7%. So what's the dollar difference in that? And there it is. That's net present value. Okay, like I said, we did a very sort of back of the envelope version of this, but I'm saying what would some mathematical sophistication involved? It says the office development is worth more than it costs. It makes a net contribution to value. The net present value rule states that the managers increase shareholders' wealth by accepting projects that are worth more than they cost. Yeah, so again, due to inefficiencies in the market, if you can get in on this deal at the 350, I'll tell you, and not to say that we're taking advantage of people, but in this country, the government is not responsible for advising the public or its citizens on business deals. If the contractor, now, to what a contractor, it could be a very sophisticated guy, but they have their own goals too. Their goal is to get hired to build a house. If they charge 300,000 as opposed to 325, and they'll get hired at 300 and not 325, they'll do that. Do they really know I mean, they may, but what treasuries are going for, what the annual return to treasury is, and how much money this guy has, and they could, I'm not saying they will, but it's 50, sorry, 50-50. Some of them may know that stuff, some of them may not. And I'll tell you, coming from, I didn't start working in finance until about 10 years into my career. It's a very daunting thing, stock markets and investments and IRAs. If you're not, and even now that I've been in it 15 years or so, it's, it can be an intimidating thing with the terminology and the whole vibe of it could be very, very, it's the big leagues. When you're dealing with money, it's the most sophisticated people that are out there, and it can be very nerving. So just keep that in mind. But like I said, so a contractor saying, "Oh, I'm going to charge $25,000 more because your opportunity cost is only 7%, not 4%," and you shouldn't, to have the contractor dictate to the investor what he should be making, may not be the way to go with something like this. So, but that's the difference. So, there is a benefit to doing this because, there's pressure on the construction prices to keep those expenses low. And hey, if the real estate market is a booming place like the Northeast, and you can get $400,000 for this property, this house in Belleville, New Jersey that you're going to be building, and it only costs you $50,000 less than you thought to get in on it, or $25,000 less, then that's what happens. And like I said, it's not the government's job to advise; it's the citizens on business deals. It's to say, to everybody keep their hands on the table. That's the government's job in America. Show your cards at the right time, and that's that the government says is just from experience and from debate and from thinking about how the rules should work, and how the market should work, and setting the ground rules. And the thing about America is, put very simply, the reason why people would swim an ocean to come to this country is because we do have a legal system that resolves conflicts, and it's a fair legal system, and attorneys aren't paying off prosecutors to make this decision, that decision, which does happen in other countries a lot. And that's why people, run for the hills from a lot of places in the world. They want to keep their capital in America, where there's some recourse, there's some order to it. And you get these people out in the world criticizing this and criticizing that about the anti-business and anti-wealth. And we don't want Amazon in Queens, New York, and all this. Well, this is the best game in the world right now. So this is the best game in town. And it is what it is, and be a part of it and be useful to it, and that's my advice to you guys out there. So anyway, so there's our first computation of net present value, and there's all sorts of discussion here that you guys can read. Investors could achieve by riskless invest in treasury bills by investing 373, and they'll get 7% return. Sure, they can do it, and like I said, you guys can read through all the stuff on your own. It's out of the text directly. Okay, so we have all that. All right. Yeah. Now things have changed a bit, and you say, okay, I believe not 7%, but I believe the S&P will bounce back at 12% the year coming up. Okay. I still can get a $400,000 payoff on that house, but I'm going to bargain with my construction guy. I'm going to bargain with the guy selling the land, saying, look, I can make 12% in the market, and I'm only going to need X dollars to come in to get that. So here's my number, and this is why. And if I was a guy with the capital, I'd say to the land guy and the construction guy, without the headache of dealing with are the screws and nuts and bolts stainless steel, are they going to rust in the bad weather or not, and is the roof leaking, and not dealing with all that, and just dropping them off the Morgan Stanley office in Jersey City somewhere and forgetting about it for a year, and I come back and I have 400,000. I need to go to that Morgan Stanley office with X dollars, and here's what I'm offering you because I think the stock market's going to return 12%. That kind of a thing. And it's a competition for the capital too, is what it is. We're an hour in already. We're 100 lines down, an hour in. So, yeah. So let's do that math. Now, what I could do, I could just roll up here because I already did the computation. I did this whole thing at 7%, right? I did the whole deal at 7%. I can just do this, say copy. Whoops. Control C, copy. Drop it off in there, and hold on. We're not done yet. Hit F2 to edit. I'm just going to drag that over to there because I didn't put the percentage in the same place. I probably should have. But I actually, you know what I could do? What is it? Is it here? Here, I could do like this. Copy. There it is. I did it like that. Put it in the same place as the 12% up top. Save as you go. So what we did was we brought all that mathematical structure down once again. So you're dividing 400,000 by 1 plus 12% to the first power. Now, what we're doing here, that's time value of money is what that is. And in class, in the live class, I'm getting these looks from the undergrads saying, oh boy, I don't really get what you're doing here, type of thing. If you took $1,000 and earned 10%, it would be 1,000 times 1 plus the 10%, which gives you $1,100 a year later, type of thing. To the exponent, 1 plus 10% to the exponent of 1. If you left it over 2 years, it'd be 1,000 times 1 plus 10% to the second power, which we were whatever, 1,200, a little bit more than 1,200, that kind of thing. We're doing the reverse of that. We're saying, I want 400,000 a year. How am I discounting it back? You divide. It's a math move. So for the time being, just sort of accept that. But if you want to read chapter 5 in the finance book, you could. I teach this course a lot. I can't just repeat. Those same problems all the time. So we vary the problems as we do this to keep me sane. Pretty much is why I do that. So after doing the math here and saying we're going to earn 12%, if I came in 357. All right, to get the 400, I'd be earning 12%. Now, depending on this number, if all those guys need for me is 350, why would I come in and argue 357 when the 350 is lower than that, right? Because I'm saying you have to just keep in mind the transaction and the different sides of these transactions. It's me, the contractor, the landowner. So if I wouldn't go to them and say, hey, I can make 12%, but I need 357 to do it. Those okay. Give us $7,142 more. So you wouldn't want to do that. Now, only if what they were asking for was beyond this 357. You say, look, it's not worth it for me. I can make 400,000 investing in the stock market, not worry about contractors and sewers and electrical stuff and all these other things, and I could just make the 400,000 from going. If they're asking for 375 or 360 or 365. This argument makes sense, but it doesn't make sense to say this to these guys because they're already asking for 350, which is lower than 357. Folks, I'm trying to give you the ideas instead of just grinding through. Believe me, there'll be plenty of computation in this course, but we're just trying to grind through, these numbers. And folks, I for the online folks, and especially for the folks who are new to me, the great thing about this is because I speak so slowly from what I've been told. You could play these videos over and over again and stop them and go back, and you can do all that stuff. Okay, and now I'm making it public for the first time. Making these they're not unlisted anymore. They're all public videos. So you can search Enzo DiCostanzo online, and I think you can find these. So anyway, so net present value equals now. Yeah. Again, looking for the NPV. It's not this minus. It's not 400,000 minus. That's not what it is. It's compared to the 350. Is really what it is. So you're gonna say equals parenthesis negative. There's this minus parenthesis negative. Now let's find that 350 somewhere, up here, wherever you want to find it, which is right there, and then close parenthesis. There it is. All right. So you're really 7,142 ahead if you're gonna make 12%, because you can make 12% on 357. 142, but if you're coming in 350, you're going to make 14%, 14.3, like we did before. Okay. And again, it just says it in here, discount rate 12%. You guys can just read that. Read these notes. I spent a lot of time making these notes in here. Okay. All right. Again, that was an hour. Now, I want to make it sort of engageable for you guys. We can make another one of these videos. I can make it. So what we'll do is let's do the self-test. Like I said, because we've been at this for a good hour already. Let's get the self-test worked out, and then you have long-lived project. I mean, we could just knock all of these out in one big long thing. But you can see these go and go and go. There's a lot of content. I think it's 400 something lines here. There's a lot of content in this. And then we have a numerical method here. We have a per share problem here. There's a lot of that kind of thing that's happening here. Okay. So it says self-test. Next thing here. And again, this is in the it says office development if the MPV for construction costs are three. Now, it bumped up a bit. The construction costs no longer 350. The guy said, "Oh, I need to specialize this, specialize that." Right? We need the roof guys from the Bronx to come in. You know, all that. So it's 355 now instead of 350. And the opportunity cost is now 12%. Okay, of this thing. It's got a 12% opportunity cost is what it's got. So you're here, 12%. And by the way, folks, just to make you guys aware of something, when you hit return, see, look at this, you hit return or enter, see how the cursor moves down? If you want to stay in the cell that you're working in, you control return and it keeps it in that particular cell. If you guys go online, and you'll find this. Yeah, there should be a sheet of this out there, and there should be a lot of them out there. I know that, yeah, this is a 2-page one. There's a 6-page one of these also. I used to work with these guys, the Mac compatibility, and it shows all the keystrokes, the jump cells, and anchoring cells. You know, all these. And actually, it does the Mac and Windows. It sort of does them all together. Yeah, here it is. And this is I know the actual document is at 6 pages. This is online, so you can just get it. If you look here, you know how to move to different worksheets, control page up, control page down, highlighting rows or selecting rows, moving cells, and data manipulation, copying and pasting, auto-filling, auditing. Trace the precedence, trace dependents, and all. Go to previous cells. And like I said, you can just go. They have the Mac version, and you're using the Windows key. All this different. Like I said, you just have to use how to underline, those kinds of things. Like I said, you guys spend some time on this. As you see, can use Control-1, format the cells, that type of thing. You guys spend the time, and I know there's a 6-page version of this also somewhere out there. Because that's the short version. We gave that to everybody, that particular one. But I know there's a longer one. Yeah, this is. I know the guy who runs the firm is constantly sort of re-editing this. But there's Wall Street Prep, there's investment banking training. There's a few of these firms that are out there. All good stuff. Really good. To me, it inspired me. I'm happy to say, really inspired me a lot. And I was happy about that, and got a lot out of working with these guys. And sort of what happens out in the world. But yeah, of course, copyright protected, all those trademarked, all those other things. Does he have the trademark symbol up there? Yeah, registered trademark. Yeah, Wall Street, of course. But like I said, that stuff's out there. You can see that firm's been around a while. Okay, they're not new at this. They've been at it. They've been at this a good 15 years or so. Okay. So we have the opportunity cost, which is right there. And then we have our number. For some reason, I wrote it again somehow. I don't know why, but there, put it back there again. We're still getting our 400,000. And what you're doing, you want to make a comparison. Now you're saying, well, if I'm making 12%, I'm making 12% type of a thing. But these guys want me to come at 355. Is that below my sort of cutoff point? Is it above my cutoff point? Because I'm saying if I'm going to make 400,000 in a financial instrument at 12%, and I need to come in with X dollars, where does that 355 fall in relation to what I can just come in and just drop my money off and forget about it type of thing? So again, let's do the math. And we already computed this previously. So this equals negative 400,000 divided by parenthesis 1 plus 12%. And I say shift 6 for the exponentiation, and then type in a 1. And folks, again, I don't know how much Excel you guys have experience with and all that. So, don't get concerned that, you don't know how to do exponents or what it means. And But watch these videos and even find other videos. Don't just rely on what I'm putting up here. You have all of YouTube in front of you, and you can do all that stuff out in the world, and take advantage. Now, obviously, mine is tailored to the course and all that, but take advantage of sort of what's out there, and learn from it. And there's hours and hours. There's a guy at Yale who put some good economic stuff. Schiller, he's put some good I had one of my classes, watch all of his videos a couple years ago. Those are really good. So yes, I was doing this video stuff in 2015, but I guess I just forgot about it for whatever reason. So, but yeah, so here at 12%, and I think we know this number, 357, 143. So I can earn that at 12, I can earn 12%, in a year in an instrument. Now, if I got to come into the real estate project at 355, well, that's less, right, than the 357. Now, I know I would get the 357 out of the instruments deal, but certainly I could do the. At this point, it's a coin toss. You can do either one of them at this point, right? You can do the real estate 355 or the instrument 357, and you're still making about the same amounts. Now, it's not 14 anymore, and so if you look at this, and here let's do the math on it because we did it last time. And we know this number. We know this is 45,000, and let's just do the profit margin. You're making 45 on on 355. Yeah, so you're making about 12.7 as opposed to 12 from the instrument. Again, you guys have to figure out, how to do all that. All right, that's just the profit. This is just the profit margin, is what that is. Okay, but I'm saying now down here, now you're subtracting this from this. Okay, so you're gonna say equals parenthesis negative 357 minus that 355. Right? And that's your 2,142. That's your net present value. That means that's how dollar-wise beyond your 12%. That's what that 0.7% is worth. It's worth 2,142. It's the project is still worth pursuing. Its survivals and construction costs are less than the PV. The future cash flows are less than 357,143. Yeah. Okay. That's what that is. I'm looking at another. Yeah, we did it again here. We did it with 20. Yeah, I did a couple versions of this. Okay, so if you look here, we did it at 12%, and then for whatever reason, I did it again at 20%. So I don't know if that's just they added this to the bottom of the problem. You guys have to look in the textbook to see. Yeah, they put 20. Yeah, they put 12% and 20%. Yeah, both of those. So yeah, so again, Jersey City real estate. Is it worth it now? To get in there. Well, let's see. Now, if you can earn 20% in some, inside, Jersey City real estate business deal, right? 400,000, all that stuff, which is right there. Okay, and now you want the present value of that 400,000. There's your 400 divided by 1 plus 20%. Right there. Yeah, now things have turned a bit. Okay, if you can make 20% in a financial instrument, all you need is 333,000. If you need the 350 in the real estate, that's more than what you would need to make the same 400,000 by just investing in an instrument, which you just need 333. But that'll yield 20%. The real estate deal is not yielding 20%. The real estate deal is yielding less than that. Okay, because you need to come. It's 14%. Because you need to come with the 350 or the 355. But it's really just 12% for the real estate deal. This thing is 20. Just from that, you make that decision. But we want to actually go through the numbers here. So this equals. We can do it like this. So equals. 355 minus the negative version of this. Yeah. So and you can do. Obviously, this thing needs to be negative here. So yeah, because you're below is really what you are. So here, let's do it like this. So equals parentheses negative this thing minus 355. Yeah, that's a way to make it negative. We just did that. Okay, it's like that. And like I said, I'll send these tablets out so you have them in front of you. But like I said, really try to make the effort to really work this through. This was a lot, just what we spoke about here. Because if you look at what's next, you have long-lived projects, and yeah, this is a much longer thing. And yeah, I want to give you guys. I'm being told that the videos are a little long, so we'll try to break it up. But I'm saying, what's stopping you if the video is 4 hours? What's stopping you from saying, boom, we're gonna put a fork in it at an hour, and then we'll come back later. You can also do something like that too. Well, like I said, this was your initial, and this was the thinking behind present value and all that type of stuff. Okay, so you have that. Okay, so here you're about 21,000 below, which means you'd be making. Let's see. Oh yeah, coming in. Look at this. You're coming in at 355, right? But here you need to come in 333. So it's about a $21,000 difference. So for the real estate project, you need 21,000 more, or so, and you get the same 400,000. Okay, which is what that is. Like I said, folks, you have to think about this and really give it some thought. The part two, and like I said, I'm going to let you guys. I really want you guys to ponder this up, folks. We're gardening is really what we're doing here. We're sitting down and sort of putting the seeds in the soil and putting the fertilizer on top of it and watering it. And it's got to sink in. So we're going to put a fork in this particular video now, because like I said, we're coming up on an hour and a half here. But maybe later today I'll generate this next one where you're coming in with it's another real estate project, and there's actually some cash flow where you're renting and you're getting 25,000 a year. I don't know, how many. Ex-girlfriend of mine owned property in Newark and rented. I think she got like 500 a month or something like that for a floor or an apartment, which is low. So how many parts? So for the year, that's five. Yeah, that's 6,000. So she would need, 4 of these apartments to generate the 25,000. I don't think you could build that house for 350, the one she was renting. So, well, like I said, that's different real estate markets, and these guys are up in Boston. Who knows? Real estate outside of New York City area could be a little bit less. So, some of these numbers might fit for Boston, Massachusetts, or New England, like Upper New England or something like that. But yeah, here's a bunch of cash flows. You have the per share cash flow thing. You have this this numerical method that we're going to go over. So we have all these things sort of coming. We're valuing computer systems, a couple different proposals. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'll try to knock this out maybe later on today. Okay. All right. So folks, this was sort of part one. We have a bunch of these that are coming our way. You have spent some time with this, and like I said, just be on the lookout for multiple parts of net present value coming your way. Okay. All right, folks. We'll talk to you soon. Okay. All right, folks. Get online, watch the video, do the Excel, and I'll talk to you soon.